Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and my respects to the dais and everyone seated here, and all of you who are seated in front of me. Been invited to deliver the Dakshayani Velayathan Memorial Lecture, and the invitation itself is an honor for me that I am considered good enough to speak at such a momentous occasion, because there is not just who she was, what her caste identity was, and what she achieved, but the fact that how indelibly her memory is etched with the very existence of Indian democracy. That is very important, because no matter what happens to our democracy, how ineffectual the democracy becomes, how the democracy really doesn't mean much, but as long as the constitution that is the cornerstone of this democracy exists, people like Dakshayani Velayathan will not be forgotten, because her name and her signature guarantees all the rights that we supposedly enjoy in our democracy. And so, I don't believe that we can ever forget anyone like this, a personality like this who rose from the background that she came from, at the time in which she was alive. And then I think that, thank God that she was alive in that time and not present today. When I see what is happening in present day India, I feel today we would have not valued her as a person, because in today's India we would have considered her caste to be more important, her religious identity to be more important than her individual intellectual ability. And so, while paying my homage to her, I also say this prayer that thank God she is not in the present, she is in our past. She could achieve what she could. And I don't make this statement lightly. In a society which stays quiet, when repeatedly in place after place, children studying in government schools, for whom the midday meal is a bigger attraction to go to school than the knowledge that they get in that school is, refuse to eat food cooked by a person who is a Dalit, because they are from an upper caste. And this is not a single incident I'm talking about. If you look in the last 2 years, there have been more than 3 or 4 instances where this has been reported from various states in India. Normal children going to government public schools in the rural and urban areas, refusing to touch the food which is scarce for them. Their families may not be able to provide the kind of food that their school guarantees them every day. And just because the prejudice of caste is so indelibly imprinted on their psyche that they believe that the food cooked by a Dalit will corrupt their caste and their religious standing. What kind of a society are we? And then we must ask ourselves, are we fit to even acclaim a person like Dakshayani Velayathan? What have we made this society into? And each of us is responsible for the downfall of our society to this level. Because all these atrocious news reports merely become news reports for us. We read them for a few minutes, we are agitated by them. If you are like me, I will post a few critical comments about it on social media. And very soon after that, the only thing that will interest me is my comment being liked? Is my comment being read? Is my comment being retweeted? And that incident will mean nothing to me. And these incidents are increasing today in our society because all of us are guilty of the same prejudices that cause those incidents. We are not bothered. We are not part of that society. Let them fight if they want to. And where we have these kind of ideas, where does the concept of democracy even survive? I began my talk with saying that the greatest tribute to her, which is immortal, is that her signature adorns the constitution that India adopted and became a democracy through which. For me, the other great importance is I see her as the bridge between Baba Saheb Ambedkar and Gandhi. The link between the two legacies and ideologies which today politically are attempted to be rivals and separate and not compatible with each other. Dakshayani Velayathan is the living proof of the commonality of those two ideologies. And that for me is the most important aspect of her. I'm here to give a lecture on the democracy and whether it is relevant today. And the tone of my lecture is going to be that no, we are just a democracy in the name. We are not a functional democracy. We are actually a democracy in its death throes. And nobody else is responsible for it but ourselves. Each and every one of us are responsible for the state of affairs. Look at just the incidents of the last 1 week. The week has been dominated by the glorious celebrations of the Amrit Mahotsav of Indian independence, 75 years of Indian independence. Yes, indeed, a glorious event. But what about the fact that in the same week where we were wearing our patriotism on our sleeves, and this time on our Prime Minister's command, we were waving that patriotism with the flag on our homes, we were keeping quiet about the most horrific incident of caste abuse that has happened in modern times, where a young child, a young thirsty child, is killed because he dared to drink water from a pot that was reserved for a higher caste teacher. It is a horrifying incident, but what is more horrifying is our silence. Have we done anything about it? Have we registered our anger against such incidences? What right do we have to honor the memories of titanic people like Dakshayani Velayathan? I ask you this question. Do I have the right to speak today over here? Does any one of you have the right to sit over here and listen to this lecture? We have forfeited our rights. Because it is not the crime that is heinous. It is our silence that encourages this kind of crime. We have sort of surrendered our duties in democracy. And in democracy, duties are much more important than the rights that are enshrined in our constitution or in the policies of our government. Because the rights are automatic, but the duties have to be voluntarily obeyed. As a society, we have only adopted one duty of voting in 5 years. and then deciding that yes, we have done our duty for democracy and we don't need to do anything more or further in the democracy. So once in 5 years we become a democracy, and for the rest of the 5 years we are satisfied to have an autocratic rule over us. And that is precisely what is happening. We elect leaders democratically and allow them to function autocratically. Their actions are not questioned. Now, government ministers tell us that don't ask too many questions because we have a lot of work to do. What do you mean by don't ask too many questions? It is my right. It is my beholden right to ask you questions and demand answers from you. But the Prime Minister launches a fund, PM Cares Fund, and says, you can't question me on this. Everything else, every other charity has to be transparent. They have to account for every penny. The Prime Minister's fund does not need to account for any donations they get. They don't have to account for where they got it. They don't have to tell us where they spent it. How is this democracy? And why are we accepting this kind of practice? Where is our spirit for democracy? Do we deserve it anymore? And I'm going to cite more and more incidents of how we do not deserve to be a democracy today. I'm sorry to say, many a times when I speak, people then ask me, can't you say something good? My reply is that if you want to hear good things, hire an entertainer. Don't ask me to come and speak to you. Because it is my duty to tell the truth, however bitter it may be. And today is the time when if our democracy is to survive, we have to tolerate the bitterest of medicines and the most radical of surgeries when the time comes for that. And we will have to be the physician and we will have to be the surgeon to do them. Only then we will have a right to honor people like her, historic people like her, who achieved through their life, established an example of what common Indians can do. The most inspiring ideal that she has left us is the fact that a common Indian, with all the setbacks, all the drawbacks, all the weaknesses that were considered to be weak and minus points in society at that time, can overcome all of it and still be such an important person. Unfortunately, today we cannot count people like her, even on the fingers of one hand, because we have stopped becoming like that. 2 days back, the Bilkis Banu case takes center stage on our news. Partially. It is the greatest attack on our justice system, justice delivery system, and by doing that on our very constitution of our country. The crime of releasing the convicts in that brutal crime is understandable at one point of time. You can be rational and say, okay, they served 10 years or they served 12 years or they served one sentence, so why keep them in prison? The way they were released has to be questioned. And how that release has been justified should have set this nation on fire. But here we are, sitting and intellectualizing the whole incident. Some of you will agree with what I say. Some of you will say, yeah, he said it very well, but this is not for us, kind of thing. What is that issue that will finally tell us, no, we are responsible? And such a casteist excuse has been given. In today's time, we release them because they are all Brahmins and they are sanskari people. So Brahmins are beyond the law. And Brahmins hold the virtue of sanskara exclusively. I am not a Brahmin, so I am not sanskari. I am thankful that I am not sanskari, because the next time I hear somebody say this, I'll slap that person. Because I am not sanskari. I am not a Brahmin. So they have given me the justification to be violent. The only thing that holds me back is there's still a little bit of blood of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi coursing through my veins, which will hold my hand back and not allow me to do that violent act. Those are my sanskars, and they don't come from my caste or my community. They come from the upbringing that has been instilled in me. So we have to ask ourselves, what are the sanskaras this democracy has instilled in us? Why are we so inefficient? Why are we so ineffective? I'm sure many of you must have felt angry when you heard about this statement made by that bigoted people's representative. I even hate to take his name on my tongue, who had the effrontery of saying what he said on a national broadcast, and it has been repeatedly broadcast all over the country and even abroad. And we don't hear a single cry of anger, a single shout in anger, a single cry in anguish. What has become to our soul, the soul of our nation? Where is that democracy withered? The crime was brutal enough to fill us with horror. But okay, justice took its course and they were sentenced. Some will say the justice served its purpose. Now it's time to pardon them and leave them. I accept that also. But what justifies this kind of a statement in the 75th year of our independence? A statement that institutionalizes caste prejudice, which tells our whole nation that Brahmins are better and more exclusive than everybody else. I have very dear friends amongst Brahmins. Thankfully, they are not like that. I have very dear friends who are Brahmins, and I will leave my daughter in their company because I will never doubt the safety of my daughter in that company. But his statement now has put a fear in my mind. What if the other Brahmins have the sanskara of rape instilled in them? Look at the disservice he has done to his own community, the caste and community that he professes to worship and idolizes. And yet, there is no anger against it. So, are we a democracy of people, by the people, of the people, for the people? Or are we a democracy for the dead bodies of those people, the people who used to be? Ask each and every one of us has to ask this question. Only then can we move any forward. I can keep giving instances of these kind of incidents that have happened often, on and off. I was in Rajasthan recently, and very casually they narrated 2 incidents of caste atrocities committed over there. It was reported to me that in one city in Rajasthan, a young Dalit groom decided that he wanted to go riding a horse for his wedding. And so he hired a horse and he rode to his wedding ceremony on the horse. This offended the upper caste people of his village. And they said that how dare a Dalit ride a horse in our presence. They lynched and killed him when he was coming back with his bride. and the country remained quiet. In Gujarat, I get very offended when people call it Gandhi's Gujarat, because I refuse to accept that what it has become now is Gandhi's Gujarat anymore. They kicked Gandhi out of that state long, long back. But in Gujarat, a Dalit man decided to grow a moustache. And not only grow a moustache, but he decided to twirl it up. He wanted to have the fashionable twirled up moustache. So he got it styled, he got it waxed, and he used to twirl it up every morning and then walk around in the village. He was lynched and murdered because the upper caste people said, how dare that Dalit try to be our equal. This was also widely reported in our media and newspapers. It did not raise a single cry of indignation. We took it, we accepted it. And life went on. Life just keeps on going on. We are not bothered. The only thing I can say for India today, it's not an incredible India. It is a shameless India today. And it is shameless India because of its citizens who have become completely shameless. Nothing shames them. They get away with all the atrocities they want to commit, but nothing ever shames us. And if it doesn't shame us, we are not going to act against it. So what is the use of icons like Dakshayani Velayathan and memorializing them and eulogizing them if we are not going to emulate the fight that she fought? And she didn't have to fight a huge big battle in public. She just stood firm for her rights. And she said, I'll see who's going to stop me from achieving them. And look what she achieved. This city, look what she has done for this city. Originating from a small island, an insignificant tribe or community which was not even considered human beings in her time. Imagine the moment when she signed the Constitution of India, not any other book, not her own biography, but the Constitution of India. Think of that achievement. A common Indian. Bapu had said that it is my dream that a Dalit daughter becomes the president of India. Well, I say that dream was fulfilled by Dakshayani Velayathan when she signed the Constitution of India, because the President of India is merely a figurehead position. But that signature on the Constitution shouts out forever, saying, this is not only Baba Saheb Ambedkar's Constitution, a Dalit has signed it and guaranteed eternally to the people of India. What can be more a moment of bigger pride than that? And then think about all the incidents that I have talked about in present day India and say 75 years is not a very big span of time for a nation. Let us at least ask ourselves a question. How did this great a deterioration happen amongst ourselves? Forget about the politicians. And I'm not saying this because a party that I'm opposed to is ruling in the center. I'm saying it because each and every leader that we consider to be our leader has some way or the other let us down, failed us. Look at the Bilkis Banu incident itself. Show me one statement condemning the release of the prisoners from any political leader. Show me one statement condemning that bigoted statement by that MLA from Gujarat justifying their release. Where has the courage gone? Because they've all become slaves of vote banks. An election is imminent. I don't want to anger the Hindu vote. So let me be quiet. The Prime Minister says, I don't care about the Muslim vote, so I'll talk about Kabristan and lighting and Assi and 20 and us and them and all those kind of things. I don't care because my vote bank is the Hindu vote bank. So are we a Hindu-only democracy? Did the constitution signed by Dakshayani Velayat was a Hindu constitution? Upper caste Hindu constitution? Did Baba Saheb Ambedkar think about the whole social engineering mechanism when he created the constitutional safeguards for all the minorities in this country? Think about the upper caste Hindu-dominated country? Did he even visualize that? So what went wrong in this just 75 years, 7.5 decades? For a man, a human, maybe that is a lifetime. For a nation, it's just a blink of an eye. How did we all change so much? Is there hope for this democracy? I really don't see any hope for this democracy. But one can never give up hope because our democracy has the potential to become vibrant. Our democracy has the potential to become that much touted Vishwa Guru. Only if we don't ask the caste, community and religion of that Vishwa Guru. And we accept the ideal of Gurutva and not the icon of that Guru that is at the moment being foisted on us. Apart from all the other things, look at what is happening in the democratic process itself. The parliamentary system of democracy has been completely negated. Not a single bill in the recent past, in the recent 8 years, has had a healthy debate in Parliament. And there have been some groundbreaking bills that have been rushed through the Parliament and made laws. There has been no debate in Parliament on that. There has been no study of those acts. And it is being found out that many of them were implemented in such a rush that they failed because of that rush, and they continuously have to be re-engineered all the time. There have been challenges to the Constitution which have come up without debate. I can understand that in Parliament, politicians have their own agenda, and so maybe they did not debate it. But if we are a for the people, by the people, of the people, don't the Indians have a right to question why these kind of laws are being forced on us without our opinion being taken at any time? Give me one instance. The only glimmer of hope in this past so many years, there were two glimmers of hope that independent India has given, which reassures us about the strength of our democracy. One was the fight against the emergency and forcing the powers that would be at that time to withdraw that emergency. The other was the recently triumphantly completed farmers' agitation, which stood up to the government and said, no, we will not accept this. Maybe all the goals have not been achieved so far because politicians have this habit of playing the game. But if we stop being alert, all the gains of the farmers' agitations will be lost, because it's not just the farmers who are agitating. It has been they've tried to portray that it's only farmers, it's only the Punjabi farmer, it's only the Sikh farmer amongst the Punjabis who are fighting for their own benefits. No, it's not true. They fight because they are going to lose the most, but they fight for a collective cause. They fight for all of us. They fight to assure us that even today, if we decide, we can bring any government down to its knees if we collectively work against them, if we have the patience. But ask yourself, If you feel agitated about an issue, are you willing to sacrifice your time? Are you willing to sacrifice your security? Are you willing to sacrifice the welfare of your family for that cause? And the answer will be a resounding no. Your time, yourself, your security, your family's benefits are much more important than the welfare of this state. That has to be done by a select few people. The activist class, people like me who don't have anything else to do. What was the term that the Prime Minister used to ridicule people like me? Andolan Jeevi. I am proud to be an Andolan Jeevi because I believe that the Andolan Jeevi is the most important component of a democratic society. Because unless we fight, we do not keep the health of the democracy thriving. So thank you to the Prime Minister for that compliment that he gave to me. But we should all take pride in becoming Andolan Jeevis. Because finally, it affects all of us. There is nothing, no law in this country which will leave us untouched, unaffected. In some way or the other, they will all come back to us. Just this afternoon, I was asked a question about what was my message for the media. I don't know if there are media representatives over here. I don't intend to offend them, but my message is that if what I have to say offends you, please carry out a correction, because it is not a criticism, it is a concern. And my answer to that question was that the media has to cure itself of the malady and malice afflicted on it. Because there have always been attempts to manipulate the media, suppress the media, make it, influence it and all that. But there has never been a systematic, official process of intimidating and subjugating the media. That is bound to happen. But it is also possible to fight and resist it. There have been examples in this country itself. But a majority of the media has abdicated its duty and is very happy to be, in the old times in the Raja's Darbar, there used to be an official singer of praise who would all the time stand next to the Raja Maharaja and sing praises of the Maharaja, and the better the praise, the more atrocious the praise, the bigger the prize he was awarded. The same thing is happening with the media today. They are working to win those lollipops from the government, and that kind of a media cannot be saved. It has to be saved from its own greed. The same applies to the entire society of India. So in conclusion, I would like to say that if at all we respect and revere people like Dakshayani Vilayudan, try to become like her. That would be the greatest tribute. Then she would not be confined to mere books or photographs or slogans. Then she will become us, me, I. And then her life would matter today. Thank you very much.